everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Suhail and we're going to be talking about every single book I read this month. I read 14 books and 2 of them are for another video that I will be uploading later, so I won't be going in depth when it comes to those 2, but I will give you like a little brief summary. The first book I read was Babel and I gave this one 3 stars in Storygraph, 4 stars in Goodreads. I think the book was very well written. I was able to keep reading regardless of all the etymology that was thrown at us. I like the most random moments. Everything she was teaching us in the book was very interesting, but the story itself I don't think was a good story. The plot was bland. The only character I actually got to know very well was Robin. I was more of a fan of Victor and Rami, and I kind of feel like I didn't really get to know them that well. I would have liked to know more about them as individuals, their past. We did get some of their past, but not enough for me to feel like I actually knew them. The betrayal was not a shocker, and yeah, I agree with all of the criticism that it brings towards colonialism and British history, misogyny, all of that, but it's not the dark academia, like adventurous story that I was hoping for. I wanted adventure. I wanted a group of friends that felt like a newfound family, which they say they were, but I personally did not buy it because, like I said, I didn't feel like I saw it. Like I didn't feel the connection between them. Like, yeah, they had something in common when it comes to where they're from, but that's about it. I feel like she wanted to let us know everything that she's learned in her 2 master's degree, but then she didn't know how to make it into a book, so she threw like a little bit of fiction in it and then called it a dark academia like book. I just feel like it was just like educational, like I was just learning instead of having fun with a like fictional story. Then I read Archer's Voice. This is the most romantic book I have ever read in my life. They both went through traumatic events in the past, and I feel like they help each other throughout the story come out of that shell that they got into because of the trauma that they went through. I love how they were friends first, and then seeing their relationship go from like friends to lovers was just beautiful. It kind of reminded me of Rhodes and Aurora from All Roads Lead Here. You know how he's kind of like standoffish at first, but like she keeps trying to become friends with him, and then they end up becoming friends or like getting close, and then that leads to like a romance. That's kind of like the same vibe that I got from this. I vlogged about it, so here's a sneak peek of how that went.
I can't believe it.
And this also has a small town feel that I love in romance books. It actually took me out of a romance slump. I have not read romance in a few months. So yeah, it was really good, and it's definitely one of my top reads of 2023. Then we have The Kind Worth Killing, and this is the best thriller I have ever read in my life. The characters are all effed up in the head. There's multiple murders. It's not just one murder that needs to get solved. It's like a whole bunch of them. And the main character, Lily, like at the beginning of the book, I was like, yeah, go her. I hope she doesn't get caught, you know, because the guy deserved it. But then eventually it felt like she made it a habit of killing people, and I was kind of like, oh, okay, you need to get caught. Like, this is not okay. It is also divided into 3 different parts. I actually vlogged about it, so if you guys want to see my reaction, it's also in the vlog that I will be uploading later this week. But there's 3 parts to it. The first one is like Lily and a guy, and then the second part, the narrators are like Lily and another person, and then I cannot tell you who it is because if not, I'm gonna spoil it. But then the third part is Lily and another person, so like the second narrator always changes throughout the story. It kind of felt like all of them were like main characters at a point. I don't know, it was just so freaking good, and like it kept telling the murders twice. So you will see the murder through like one perspective, and then the other narrator will say the same thing that happened. And even though you already knew what was gonna happen, it was still entertaining. It was so good. It was so freaking good. There's also a cliffhanger ending, and there's another book which I did not know when I went into this book. So I am gonna read that one. I just don't know when, but I will hopefully get to it, because even though the situation got fixed in this book, Lily's situation is still hanging, so I want to know what happens to her eventually. The first chapter of the second book was in this book, like at the end of it, so I was able to get like a little preview of the next book, and it sounds good, so I am gonna be reading it hopefully soon. Then I read Below Zero by Ali Hazelwood. I actually said that I was not gonna read more of her books, but this one was on hold in the library, like on the Libby app, and it became available, and I had forgotten that I had it on hold, so it was like a 4-hour audiobook, and I was like, why not? It was actually my favorite Ali Hazelwood book that I have ever read, maybe because it was short and it didn't take that much time and it didn't feel like I wasted my life reading it, so maybe that's why I liked it. But it was actually really hot. Like, the spicy scenes were great. The main character, like the guy, was probably the most different male that she's ever written. I feel like every other male that she writes feels like the same person. So yeah, I actually really liked it. I think I gave it 4 stars. Then I have Spy Family Volume 1. This manga though, I have never read a manga that has made me feel like I need to get to the next volume now, and I have to wait 3 weeks because I'm reading them through the library, but I just cannot wait. I love all 3 of them. So in this manga we follow, I think his name is Twilight, and that's his spy name. He's a spy and he is assigned a mission where he has to get a family and basically like hire people. So he goes to like an orphanage, he gets like this random girl, like a kid, and then them two go find a mom to, you know, make the family, and the mom ends up being an assassin. But like the spy doesn't know that his wife is an assassin, and the assassin doesn't know that her husband is a spy. The girl, I think she has like telepathic, like she can read people's minds and stuff like that, so she knows what her parents or her new parents are. I think in the second volume the girl is the one who's gonna try to infiltrate the school because they're trying to like spy on someone who is a high person in a school, like in a very prestigious school, which is why they have to be a family so that they can get accepted into the school. Because how dare they be divorced or single parents? Like, absolutely not. You know, I feel like no matter what your reading taste or what genres you like, if you are looking for a manga to get into manga, this will be a great one to start with. I give it 5 stars, of course. Then I read Nick and Charlie by Alice Oseman. This is a follow-up to the Heartstopper series. In here we follow Nick and Charlie's journey into going long distance because Nick is going to college and Charlie is still finishing high school. All of this is just basically like them dealing with that situation, and it happened like in maybe like 3 weeks. So it is a very quick, fun, short story to read. I loved it, and I actually uploaded a vlog where I was reading it, so if you guys want to see me cry, it's gonna be in the vlog. Then I read These Hollow Vows series. This is the first one, this is the second one. I like this one better than this one. I think I gave this one like a 4 star and this one a 4.5. I was still not obsessed with them like I am with other fantasy series. I feel like I expected it to be one of my favorite reads of this year, and it was definitely not. In this one we follow Bree, where she is going to the Unseelie court to get her sister, or rescue her sister from the king of that court. And to get in the court she pretends to be basically like not a bachelor type of situation, but like some girls are, you know, competing to marry the prince, and the prince turned out to be someone familiar, and yeah, the story just basically goes from there. There's a love triangle, there's tons of twists and turns, which leads her to having trust issues, and yeah, it was overall a good story. I just didn't love it as much as like Folk of Air or Daughter of the Moon Goddess or anything like that. Like, if you're looking for a fantasy romance that's quick, not too complicated, very easy to read, kind of entertaining, then this will be a good series to read. Then I read How the King of Elfheim Hate to Love Stories, or Learn to Hate Stories, and this is by Holly Black. This is a follow-up novella, or like short stories from the Folk of Air series. I described this in the vlog as everything we didn't get from Carnan in the Folk of Air. It's right here. Do I think it's a must read? Not really, but if you like the Folk of Air series, you will like this. And yeah, we see him during his childhood, and then we also see some moments from the Folk of Air series from his perspective. I gave it 4 stars. Then I read The Maid. I read this one for a video that I will be uploading later this month, which will be the Goodreads Choice Awards winners. I actually really enjoyed it. It was kind of like Eleanor Oliphant, but make it murder mystery, and I think I gave it like 4 stars. Then I read The Alchemist. This one is also for a different video. I will be going in depth also in that video. So this book is from 1988, so it felt a little bit like it didn't have any nuance to it. Especially me, I feel like I have read tons of books about slow intentional living, and they have kind of like the same ideologies of, you know, focus on what makes you happy and go for your dreams, and who cares what anybody says, and don't waste your time on things that don't matter. You know what I mean? Like that type of messaging that I feel like goes against what our society is telling you is the right thing to live life. So yes, I can see how it's a classic and it's a really good book, and it was probably, you know, the OG when it comes to like that type of message. But in 2023, I feel like it wasn't as impactful as I was expecting it to be, especially when I've heard about this book like my whole life. I give it 4 stars, and for it to not have any nuance, I feel like I was still able to go through the book without getting bored and being like, okay, I've heard this before, you know? Then I read A Demon in the Wood. It is part of the Shadow and Bone series by Leigh Bardugo. I did not rate it. I enjoyed it, but I feel like I would have appreciated it more if I had read the Shadow and Bone series. So I feel like maybe I'm gonna watch the series and then read this one again to see if I can appreciate it better. All right, last but not least, we have His and Hers by Alice Finney. You guys, okay, first of all, I finished this book literally this morning. Like, I woke up and I was like, I have to film my video, so I have to like finish, and I think I was like at 90%. So yeah, it's very fresh in my head. I still haven't like gathered my thoughts, but I feel like, you know that feeling you get in your chest when you're watching a scary movie? Normally for thrillers, I'm questioning. Like, I'm like, who is it? Is it this person? But he did this, but she did that. You know what I mean? Trying to put the pieces together. This one, I actually thought I was getting followed by the girl and like she was gonna come kill me. Like, I felt it. Like, oh my gosh, she's coming. You know what I mean? I loved the experience. The storyline though was a little bit confusing, and at the end, the killer, okay, it kind of made sense, but at the same time, it didn't. You know when, I don't know if you guys have watched Gossip Girl, but whenever they revealed who Gossip Girl was, you were like, wait, but how did all of this other stuff happen? Like, it doesn't make sense if he was Gossip Girl. You know what I mean? That's the same thing that happened in this book. Like, at the end, I was like, wait, but like, how did this other thing happen? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I want to go back and read it again knowing who it was to see how the pieces come together. But yeah, I did not see it coming. Like, I mean, I feel like at some point I thought it was every single character. Like, I did think if it was gonna be that person, but I didn't give it much thought because I was like, nah, whatever, there's no way. You know what I mean? Anyways, I loved it. I cannot wait to read the rest of her books. I have seen the reviews and they're not as good as this one. I think this is one of her best books. I give it 4.5 stars because like the experience was 5 stars, but then the story was 4, so like, you know, 4.5 in between. So yeah, that's what I gave it. I loved it. I cannot wait to read the rest of her books. So yeah, those were all of the books that I read this month. I hope you guys enjoyed and got some good recommendations, and I will see you in my next one.